why, so embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win, like lots of sims popping it like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pinto, choose what I get to. Never lose move on the move, but it's simple. Never give up if we running it, maybe. We just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me is never the
That's right. It's time for Divots and Pivots here on That Sports Podcast Network. And if you thought that intro sounded like we were about to diss Drake, I'm sorry. We are not that cool and into it. I'm Angela Duke, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard, my co-host here, Bud Copeland, with me as always. And tonight's episode, as always, is also brought to us by Acorn Hills. Get over to acornhillsco.com. Use promo code TBFY for yours truly, Bud, over here. You get that discount on your purchase as well. But with all the important stuff out of the way, Bud, how you doing tonight? We coming up. Are you rested after Super Bowl Sunday?
A little bit. I want to start off on a bittersweet note. We're going to get back to it later, but with Mama Woods passing recently, thoughts and prayers, obviously, to everybody in the Tiger Woods stratosphere, and for everybody out there who, makes you think of your mom, makes you think of family. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and we had a great relationship that revolved around golf. I grew up in North Florida, where it was hotter. It was hotter than that.
Yeah, hotter than that.
It was hotter than what. In the summertime, and when I was a young buck, after playing 18 holes, if I wanted to go play more, I would want to be on a cart, and I was too young to drive a cart. So I would ask my mom if she would come out and she would drive the cart. She would only say, only if I could play with you, and then I had to teach her how to play. We had our own scoring system early on. Really, she would just kind of count, did she make contact? Did the ball go forward? And if she whiffed a couple times, she would just put it in her pocket and say, go, I'm going to drop with you. She was a queen at kind of reading the room and, etiquette, all that kind of stuff. And one more quick mom story. One of the best was we were waiting on the first tee. I must have been 13, 14 years old at this point. And at that point, she'd been playing a couple of years. Like, we had gotten okay. And she played tennis, so she had hand-eye coordination. And we heard a foursome of dudes pull up behind us. And one of the older guys was like, there are women and children on the course today. And actually, I had that inverted. They were in front of us, a foursome waiting to tee off, and a twosome pulled up. And they said, women and children on the course today, that kind of deal. And normally, etiquette 101, you're a foursome, there's nobody in front of you, twosome pulls up, let them play, just let them go. They're going to be quicker. Instead, these guys made us sit behind them for a few holes until we came up to a par 3, when finally they all scurried off to the side. They were scattered all over the damn place, and they all huddled in one front edge of the court, the green, waved us through. My mom, God love her, took like a 3-wood from a $110 and just bunted one up there to about 15 feet, 2-putted, said, thank you, boys, and walked off. It was the fucking greatest. So, heavy hearts this week, and obviously with Tiger withdrawing, we'll talk about the PGA Tour, but it made me think of mom, and it made me think of golf. So there are silver linings on everything. But back to the beginning. Yeah, I didn't know if we were trying to invade Canada next after Kendrick just, tore down the fence. And let's just start there. You can't be in the world of sport, and I'm sure shit not going to sit here and try to act like the Waste Management Open was a bigger deal than the Super Bowl this week. But let's take a few minutes on the front end, and let's lead with some pivots instead of divots, and talk about the Super Bowl. Where would you like to start? You're the football guy. I mean, I'm just here for morale and a little bit of golf insight. So what were your thoughts? I want to see what stuck out most to you, and then we can kind of pick it apart from there.
Well, the game itself was boring. The game was boring. It was a blowout, and that's unfortunate because although I wanted the Chiefs to lose, I still wanted it to be a game. I still expected it to game. Even after the pick 6 that made it 17-0, I'm still looking at the clock. I'm thinking, okay, this game's still not over. This is Patrick Mahomes. This is the Chiefs. Andy Reid, they're gonna come back. I'm not gonna sit here and get all excited that Eagles are crushing them, 17-0 at the moment. But God, just like I had said, on Super Bowl Sunday on the show. This is what the Eagles have done. They don't let up. They haven't let up. They can handle the lead, and that's what they did. They handled the lead. They handled the business, and they crushed Patrick Mahomes in the trenches on the line, and so here's the thing. It was a boring game, but what was nice about it was good old-fashioned football. It was just, we're going to run through you. We're going to drive you into the ground, and we're going to make you think that we're right behind you about to pull your pants down even when we're on the other side of the field. Because and that's what the Eagles did. They just freaking pantsed the Chiefs.
And I kind of feel like, in a way, I won this Super Bowl too. Because if you think about, I mean, so congratulations to me. Because if you listen to Jalen Hurts and he was talking about, during media week or whenever it was, they were talking about the identity of this team or the strength of this team and specifically the defense. And he, being a University of Alabama, I mean, he famously, everybody's talking about how like Jalen Hurts, he went from losing and being benched. He got benched because Georgia was beating the dog piss out of him, and then losing to the Natty, and he has to transfer. He was the first one to say it's those guys from Georgia and that core defense, that mentality, that attitude. That kind of, he goes, everybody's a dog. Like, he's like, you need a player, dog. And Jalen Carter, I know you might not have heard his name a lot, Super Bowl. That's because he had 2 or 3 guys on him at all times. And that allowed them to not have to blitz. I mean, you look at that score, and one of my favorite stats that I heard floating around there was Philadelphia had more sacks than they allowed first downs. And
it's so wild.
And even the score, was it 44-22? Is that what it was?
But that's a fake 22 though. They scored 2 of those touchdowns at the end against the second string defense.
I mean, that's like hair extensions, push up bra, high heels, butt implants, you name it.
That final score was 40-6.
And they didn't blitz. They didn't blitz once. So here's a question for you. I think the intern's about to interrupt, but would the Bills have done any better?
I think so, because I think the Bills are a tougher team than the Chiefs. I've said it from the beginning. The Chiefs, I still think, even though their record was there and even though they won in the playoffs, I still think they were a fake team because they were ahead of. I think a lot of it was from their past, and that's why people were throwing so much respect on them. We forgot how poorly they played all year, and the Chiefs made it there. I'll give it credit; they won their close games, but you could see it through it the entire year. They just weren't the same Chiefs team that is dominant in the past. So yeah, I do think the Bills would have been better. I still think the Eagles would have beaten the Bills. I still think the Eagles were, tape to tape for the entire season, the better team in the NFL. So the Bills would have lost, but I think the Bills would have given us a game. I don't think Josh Allen would have laid down and quit. I think they would have been able to handle the pressure a little bit better, and I think they would have put up a fight.
You ultimately answered the second part of the question, which is, so are we all agreeing Philadelphia that they are like Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? They're not putting up. It really was that defensive front that's just going to walk through anybody because, damn. And real quick, Patrick Mahomes, they abandoned the run pretty early. I think that they did kind of, which was. They almost did that Super Bowl rookie mistake when it's a team's first year. They get down early, so they abandon the playbook and they just start chucking it, trying to force it. You saw that. And I think with Patrick Mahomes, there's something – I'm not going to – listen, no disrespect to the guy, right? Like, we can definitely, though, say, like, no more GOAT talk. It's not
for
just
now.
About,
he took a hit. He's still on. Look, here's a bottom fact. He's still on track for being in the conversation. Let's not forget he's still very young in his career. He's on track to still be in that conversation. But this is you got to knock him down a peg here because of the performance. He's now been blown out in 2 Super Bowls. Yes, one of them was to the GOAT and Tom Brady, which I could factor that in. But
thank you for reminding me of that, because I was about to say, I think you have to automatically just seal. It's not so much look at the Brady losses in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I'm not a Brady apologist. I've loved the guy ever since he was, getting fucked over by Lloyd Carr with Drew Henson and having to do mop-up duty back in Michigan. But you have to, like you said, the head-to-head, and then you have to factor in Patrick Mahomes looked straight up fucking pedestrian last night. And Super Bowl. It was kind of eye-opening. It was kind of shocking. And it definitely wasn't complacency. I'm not going to do that. I think it was the opposite. I think their wave finally crested and crashed. And that's going to happen to all big teams. There's a reason that nobody's ever three-peated in the NFL in the Super Bowl era. There's a reason why, everybody said they last-second wins, one possession wins. They eked their way there. And, it was just like that ride came to an end. I think that game was not symbolic of kind of this season. I think it was a giant wave crashing. Right. And they're going to get on the shore. They're going to get on shore, and they're still going to have Patrick Mahomes. They're still going to have some key players, but they just got exposed.
Yeah, they got work
front.
They got work to do. But I will say the talk of everyone out here for the last 2 days now has been saying the dynasty's over. Like, let's chill here. Okay, the Patriots also early on in the dynasty won 3-5 and all that jazz. The last time the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, they went out and won the next two. So I mean, let's not say that the dynasty's over yet. Okay, I'm not saying that. The Chiefs,
no.
Andy Reid is still there. Patrick Mahomes is still. Travis Kelce's still there. Like the dynasty's still intact. Let's see how they respond. I will say, I think the road is going to be tougher because their division is getting better. A lot, which is something the Patriots division didn't really do until the end of the dynasty. So let's see how they respond. The dynasty's not over yet. Patrick Mahomes is still in the conversation of getting to a level of being considered the greatest of all time, but everything is just put on pause. It's not over. It's just put on pause.
I agree with you on everything except for the part about Patrick Mahomes being in the conversation. The conversation's over.
Well, Brady's not in the conversation at the moment. He's still on track to be in the conversation is what I was trying to say.
He'll never he would have to get more than 7. He would have to literally get more. There's no way.
I agree.
You can't LeBron this thing. You can't Tiger this thing where the numbers don't add up, but you can start doing other kind of variables because they're close enough. That was kind of a ceiling thing. But I was going to end with, but at the end of the day, they still have Patrick Mahomes. He's still in his prime.
Yeah.
They're still, I would say, they're still going to be, a Final Four in the AFC next year. Once again, pencil them in, probably for the divisional round. It'll be interesting to see if Travis Kelce, what happens in the offseason there will be. It'll also be interesting to see if that personal life of his, if this was all not for show for him. Taylor Swift's got a track record. She chews him up, spits him out. Sometimes I think that she's probably, don't come at me, Swifties. She's talented. She's great. She's wonderful. But I think when you are an artist like that, sometimes in your brain you might be blurring those lines between what's real, what's inspiration, and it might just be another chapter in her book. Speaking of, and I think that's what we've come to is the end of the first part of how some books have like 37 chapters, but they're broken up into 3 parts or 2 parts or whatever it is. Yeah. We just get to the end of part 1 for Patrick Mahomes. We'll see. We saw what happened with part 2 with Brady. It was a dormant era of excellence. He played like a motherfucker. The undefeated season, the MVPs, all pros. Great, no rings. And guys like that, that's how they measure it. So, yeah, Patrick Mahomes will be back. So will the Eagles. And I'm not going to say dynasty.
I will say the Eagles are set to probably lose some key pieces, though. Like, A.J. Brown's not a guarantee to be back. Josh Sweat's not a guarantee to be back. The Eagles will have some work to do, but the Eagles now have a track record of filling hole. Like they've had some fantastic roster construction over the last few years to where I think the Eagles will be able to handle whatever changes come their way this offseason. So
all right, let's see a couple of divot or pivots for you from the Super Bowl. And we're actually going to go into halftime for a second here, but let me ask you this: divot or pivot, the national anthem.
Oh, I was fine with the national anthem. I thought it was beautiful. I thought John Baptiste, he thought he did a great job.
The guy could read anything or sing anything, and it's going to sound phenomenal. Yeah, I'm digging. I was digging that sincerely. Divot or pivot again? T. Sweezy getting booed.
So I was fine with that. I was fine with that too. And honestly, I thought she handled it in a perfectly fine way. I thought Travis Kelce was the big baby about it, honestly, with his comments after saying that.
Oh God, did he?
He was and I should say, I'm exaggerating.
He's sticking up for his girlfriend,
but I'm exaggerating a little bit now. But where he said that when he heard the fans booing her, it broke his heart. And I'm like, chill, dude. It's a football. It's a football. So part of sure, I get it. But at the same time, football game. What do you expect, buddy? And if for some reason that got into his head for his abysmal performance, then shame on you.
I think it was. I was into it too. I like a good booing. I think, like you said, she took it like a champ. I don't think you're going to get under her skin.
It was only about sports. It was only from Eagles fans. It was only about sports.
Let's stick with the Sweezy umbrella and talk about your boy Kelce. Divot or pivot, his game day outfit. You know exactly where I was going.
Yeah, the freaking 70s drug dealer outfit. He looked like what's his name? From the movie Blow.
Boogie Nights.
Or Boogie Nights, or Johnny Depp. Yeah, he looked like a myriad of possible characters. The outfit before and the outfit after looked completely different. The outfit before, 70s drug dealer. The outfit after, same outfit but without all the accessories and with a very sad look on his face. He looked like a retired mob member from the 90s.
He went from being the drug dealer to the drug user. That's what happened. In all in one game. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I think people like that. I think Cam Newton has horrific style, and I think that he loves when people like me say that, because
I should say it's just not for me.
yeah, it's not for me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I'm running a team, no, gentlemen, everybody's wearing suits, coat and tie. Let's go. Like, have some sort of semblance of uniformity here. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Coach Bill down at UNC, because he's making some waves there. We'll talk about that when the tour takes us to North Carolina for the PGA. Maybe we'll do a little pit stop, a little divot detour to Chapel Hill and see what's going on with Bill, if he's still there. Now,
well, speaking of suits too, did you like Mahomes showing up in Eagles green, and his entire suit being Eagles green?
Yeah.
I thought it was. I mean, obviously we can laugh at it now because obviously the results of the game, mud on his face or whatever. But I mean, it's a confident play, but it's also he did it in a classy way, I guess, because it was just a suit. Like, he didn't like wear a sign that said like, or right on the back of the suit. Like, it was just a green suit. He had plausible deniability and let your imagination run with it, which everyone did.
We're in just a totally different era, because then you see probably the game's biggest star in Cooper DeJean, the biggest like up and comer,
right.
The great white hope, the great white secondary of the Philadelphia Eagles. Could there be anything more on brand?
What's his name? Vince Papale from
right. Right. I think I've got like barbecue sauce on my finger. That's fucking disgusting. But I think there couldn't be anything more like, Phil, you got some tough kids. He came walking in like gym shorts, a Letterman jacket, and a t-shirt. Now that wouldn't fly either, but I'm saying like, if you're going to swing and a miss, go with like, I just rolled out of bed. Another kind of cool thing that popped up in these interviews, I guess I had never heard this story before. Brady took a nap before the first Super Bowl, because there's so much time.
Hear that.
Yeah, he said he actually ended up taking like a 15-minute nap before his first Super Bowl. And they asked him about like, do you recommend it? He's like, well, I would love to do it, but I would never be able to do it again. He's like, I was 22. He's like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know the enormity of the moment. I was just trying to kill some time, and I ended up drifting off. He's like, after that one, there was no naps. He's like, it wasn't. He's like, it was the opposite. You're trying to. So Cooper DeJean, big star, loved how he looked. So let's get into the biggest. I mean, arguably the biggest star, and I think this is one of those moments of art is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
So divot or pivot, Kendrick's halftime show.
I was a big time no on it at the time, and then I've started watching more of it and reading more about it, of the details in it, and hearing more about it, and I've come around to being all right. It's not the worst one ever, because I do, as an artistic mind, I do appreciate the depth of creativity that he put into it when you actually find out about it, like the shapes on the stage, which was the PlayStation buttons flashing at the beginning, and the certain code for the cheat code in GTA that equals infinity armor and health. Like, that's like, okay, cool way to say you ain't touching me. And then coming out with and then when you really listen to the things he was saying and the way he came out and about the jabs at whatever society, and then obviously the jabs at Drake, and having freaking Serena Williams out there, which I didn't even know until the next day because I didn't see her at the time. Like, I came around to being, okay, you know what? Do I know any of his music? No, I don't. So that's why I didn't enjoy it. But when I sit back and say, you know what, it wasn't meant for me, and this is all at least creative, and he's being the person out there to be like, screw everybody, this is what I'm doing. The only part that I didn't get and that I didn't enjoy was freaking Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
I did not understand the Samuel L. Jackson thing. It felt weirdly forced. I don't know. It just felt out of place.
Thank you. I was here for it. I'm a big Kendrick fan. I fucking love his music. He really caught my attention when he won the Pulitzer, whatever, in 2018. Sure. And then like when I started understanding that, and there's layers to this. I mean, you even hear there's certain people why they're successful and not. Eminem is one of those guys who's just a master of the craft. Every word is chosen for a reason, and yada yada yada. Kendrick's like
That's
that.
How Kendrick is too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's guys
I respect his work. Yeah.
It's poetry. I mean, if he wanted to, he could be writing songs for rock and roll, for any genre. He's a writer, and obviously he's a performer. So there is that. If it's not your cup of tea, totally fucking get it. Because let's put it this way:
different.
Who's the guy who was in with Brianna Chicken Fry and the Barstool chick, and he dumped her, and then is it
Oh,
Zach,
that was
the short
Zach
bald headed
Bryant.
guy?
It was
Okay,
Zach Bryant. Oh, Brian, I think.
whatever. Okay, he's like
Yeah.
one of the biggest country stars in the world right now, right?
Mhm. Well,
It
not
would
anymore,
be.
I don't think. But
I think he survived this. I think it was just here in the
which is
Northeast.
shocking that he survived that. That's ridiculous. But either way, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
I think that's when we here in the Northeast sometimes are in our little cocoon, our little barstool bubble of echo chamber of love, which we do love one another, and you're not going to fuck with us up here.
Yeah.
But I like that y'all let me in too. Obviously, I'm not from around these parts.
Yeah,
I think in the
right.
outside world, like Texas is pretty big, Oklahoma is pretty big. There's a lot of other places that love that guy and that music, and they probably think that Brianna
Right.
Chicken Fry is a twit or whatever. Anyway, let's say that Homeboy is headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. My immediate thought would be, I could not fucking tell you one song that he sings. Actually,
Yeah, I
not
probably
true.
couldn't either.
There's one on TikTok. I think it's called Pink Skies or something like that. That's got a catchy hook to it. I would recognize that, similar to how you probably, when they started playing They Not Like Us, you're like, oh, I've heard this.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's the one.
Yep.
But he's not my cup of tea. I'm not a big country music fan. So originally, I mean, instantly. So then I would start doing what you're doing. I'd look into like the set design and this, that, and the other.
Right.
What happened, and I think what I got to hear from you is when you start hearing some of this backstory and the layers to it, and then you start putting the pieces together. Why the other person who was out there singing, the other chick he brought out, SZA.
Oh, SZA, yeah.
Another one of Drake's exes.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that part. I just knew that.
Yeah.
Apparently Scissor's also very popular playing arenas right now, so like that makes sense.
But happens to be another ex of Drake, just like Serena Williams, which is why she was out there crip walking from Compton. So the Uncle Sam thing. There's a song that says Beef. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, a couple of rappers. We like Kendrick. He's American from Compton, represent. Drake is from north of the border, from Toronto, and his heritage is questioned by many. Not me. I wouldn't do that. It's below me to do that. But anyway, so they've had this fucking beef going on. Drake's like one of the biggest billionaire artists on the planet. Again, if he's another one of those guys that like you're probably like, I'm not a Drake fan. I could play probably 15 songs and you'd be like, oh shit, that's him.
Well,
that's
yeah,
how
exactly.
But I'm not a big Drake fan, and then I'm like, oh shit, that was Drake. Like, all right, guy fucking.
Yeah, I know I like plenty of Drake songs. Honestly, I just don't like him.
So apparently, in one of these beef battles back and forth, he makes a reference about like, oh, Kendrick opened his mouth, just give him another Grammy, like try to be like, he's not really good, blah, blah, blah. And he said, somebody call his uncle. And I don't know. I think it was just kind of being like, you're a child, so you need some representation. There's that. I've heard there's other hidden meanings behind it, but I saw that juxtaposed right next to, it's me, your uncle, Sam, like almost like, oh, you coming after my boy. Because also then I saw a real petty, so thank God for social media, a real petty account went and found out that Drake unfollowed Samuel L. Jackson after the Super Bowl.
Of course he did, yeah.
Now, I'm gonna say this is unchecked resource. This is unchecked sources. Right. But for me, it illustrates the whole, like there's a story behind all this. So when you start piecing all that together, and then the references. Really what it was a few years back, Drake was trying to be like, me and these other two dudes, like we're the super team of rap and blah, blah, blah. And the next stop for us is the Super Bowl. And so that was at the very end, we said game over. That was kind of that. And like you said, the stage.
Yeah, I knew part of it was like Kendrick. Part. It was like, I don't think I believe I read something. He made no money off of this performance.
He spent $15 million.
Because he spent so much on it.
Spent $15 million.
Exactly. So he didn't make any money off of it. And his biggest thing was to just beat
directly
the Super Bowl, basically.
He didn't make any money directly,
but
directly. What, in the last 24 hours, he probably somehow, some way has been able to leverage that into. As a matter of fact, another thing that I saw with, since this has become a hip hop show all of a sudden,
I know, right?
So brought to you by Acorn Hills. This hat's dope. I'm not really a rope hat guy, but
yeah, I'm not either. But that one's not too bad.
Well, it's Acorn Hills. What do you expect? Nate knows what he's doing.
Well, yeah. Well, I like anything Acorn Hills, but I mean, like the rope's not too bad on it. Like the rope looks more subtle than other ropes. Yeah, it looks more natural. Yeah.
It's not bothering me as much as I thought it was going to. I got this one, and I also got basically this color, but I didn't want to go that route. Kendrick is all of a sudden. I just saw a story where he is in talks or in development with the creators of South Park for a new show.
Oh, jeez.
Let's hold on. Let's Jamie pull up South Park creators.
I haven't heard that at all.
And this is where I really do. I don't want to be spreading too much disinformation and misinformation. So I got to see if this is 9 hours ago. Kendrick Lamar and South Park creators joined forces for comedy film. This is from MSN News.
Oh, MSN has a website?
MSN, the little butterfly that everybody had to use in high school to get online.
Actually, I used to love playing their free games.
That is true. My girlfriend in high school, she had like the MSN dial-up thing, and we were like an AOL family. It was like the Montagues and Capulets. We couldn't talk.
Right.
You say right. What was I just referencing? Quick pop quiz.
AI Instant Messenger. I had AOL Instant Messenger. I had the profiles. I had the multiple
about
accounts.
The Capulets and the Montagues.
Oh, you were talking about that part. Oh, that's Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, come on.
What we got? 26 minutes. All right, we should talk golf at some point. But all right, so we both in agreement. Kendrick nailed it. Serena is actually I'm not even embarrassed to say hall pass. That's my hall pass right there. My wife and I.
She looked like she had some anger in her, and when you watch it, she was crip walking with some swag and with some attitude.
She is a very, very beautiful specimen and incredibly talented at tennis. No, her and Miley Cyrus, those are my hall passes. My wife and I agree we get to share one Miley's hours. So Miley, if you're out there, if you didn't catch us on our Super Bowl pregame show, what the fuck were you talking about with this previous? I mean, all I know, we've been doing
previous
this
9 to 5,
4 or 5 years now, and I know that your future former 9 to 5 right now is doing something with design, and I'm not going to get too deep. I don't want to dox you.
Design grocery stores. We'll
you design, like floor spacing and shit for grocery stores, whatever. What did you do before this?
I used to do the same.
Real quick, let me set the stage. This would be no different than if you're at lunch with a friend of yours, and good friend, close buddy, looking forward to the wedding later this year, and like you're talking, and then somebody walks up and starts like overhears a conversation in I don't know, like Chechen. Some fucking like random ass language, and you just flip over your shoulder and you start speaking fluently. That's what it felt like when you and this woman from LA who is an interior designer for the stars. So what did you used to do?
I used to be a designer
before you started slugging Bud Heavies in your basement with me and talking about golf. What life did you trade in for this?
I used to be so I worked in downtown Boston at a luxury furniture company called Roche Bobois, and I designed for them. And I was the one who went into these very, very, very rich homes and condos and measured their spaces and planned out where the furniture was going to go and helped decide on colors and fabrics and all that jazz to make it all make sense. What I did.
Did you go to school for this?
No, I went to school for graphic design. I have a really weird career arc. I went to school for graphic design and then ended up working in hotels, and then from there ended up getting into kitchen design, and from there ended up getting into the Roche Bobois and the interior design, and then from there ended up into commercial grocery stores. It's a hell of an arc.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty fucking cliche. Southern guy. I'm not Southern at all. That pisses me off. And people are like, oh, you're a Southern boy. No, my parents were from Michigan.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I grew up in the South. I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, and Tallahassee, Florida, and all that good stuff. But like as far as like values and culture, no, we weren't Southern at all. We were about as Midwestern as you can get. And then from there, went and studied political science. I was a middle school writing and social studies teacher for a few years before I went and worked full time at summer camps. And now my future former 9 to 5 is essentially sales and marketing, and program administration. Thanks for tuning into our little half hour of therapy and catching up.
This first half hour was definitely a pivot.
Man, I'll tell you what. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some golf.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, No waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Yes, that was still Underdog hanging out with us. So get over there and use that DIVPIV. When you and bet smart, bet safe. Only bet what you can lose because
you will lose. You're gonna lose.
You will. I lost all my Super Bowl bets, so yeah, you will lose.
I did not get in on the squares or the prop bets.
I did last minute, and I wish I hadn't because it was last minute.
The only one that I wanted to get in on is I heard it was either 4.5 or 5.5 was the closing line, was the over under for number of Taylor Swift cutaways during the game.
Oh, sure.
During the game, kickoff to end.
Yep.
And I was going to hit that under hard because I thought that Philadelphia was going to win.
But I think she was only shown like twice, I think. Maybe even only once. Like
including the boo.
Right.
But back to golf. All right.
Or starting off at golf.
Where do you
Let's first recap what just happened at the Waste Management, because compared to last year, quite tame compared to last year. But we did get some fireworks on the 16th. We got a nice slam dunk hole in one by Senor Grillo, Emiliano Grillo. That to anytime it's a slam dunk hole in one is damn cool. Like it's just the odds of that happening are so small. Like I just absolutely, you gotta love it. So fantastic there. We got to have that moment on the 16th. I was really pulling things started to come together on Sunday for this to be interesting, but Thomas Dietrich went out there and did what he had to do. He actually ended up shooting 6 under final round. He turned it on at the end. Some guys started to make a push. Spieth started too early, and then he fell back. Like I needed somebody to be a little closer for me to have some tension at the end there. Unfortunately, we didn't get that tension. Dietrich ended up winning by 7 strokes, which is a pretty easy victory at the end of the day. But good for Thomas Dietrich. That's a nice big win for him. The Spieth comeback is officially at full throttle right now, so we're looking forward to see how that comes around. This was kind of the story of underdogs / comebacks, because Dietrich was definitely an underdog. Daniel Berger back in action too as well, and also top 3 actually. He finished T2, so you love seeing Daniel Berger back out there. And then let's get to Will Chandler, because I know this is obvious. I'm assuming this is someone that you know more of than me, but to quickly give you the recap on Will Chandler, we talked last week about how qualifiers in the future are going to become less. They're not going to be completely gone from every tournament, but they're going to be gone from a lot of tournaments moving forward, the Monday qualifiers. Will Chandler came out with a statement because he gets in on the Monday qualifier, and then he comes in, shoots, I think it was on Thursday, I think it was like a 3 under, then 4 under, then 3 under, and then he closes his final round at, I think it was 5 under final round. And he finished top 10 at T6 for a total of 15 under. Fantastic story. Nobody knows Will Chandler. You probably do. So I'll be curious to see what you have to say. But I love it. It's almost like sure, take the Monday qualifiers away from us going forward, but we're gonna make the most of them while they're still here and prove that there's something to be watched and to enjoy from all levels of professional golf. And I loved it. I wanted to see him go as far as he could. Obviously, I didn't think he was gonna win, but fuck, to get to 15 under when everybody else other than Dietrich was only at like 17, 16 under, that's damn impressive.
I love that I love it when you tee up, pun intended, the PGA Tour recap, because the Waste Management was great. It was fun. I think it was fine. I think it's always a great kind of tailgate for the Super Bowl. It's always better when a big name wins, and that just goes whenever. Of course, if Spieth wins this, it's a much bigger story. Or even if Justin Thomas, who sneakily got into that top 10, wins this, it's a bigger story. But for Thomas Dietrich, we have the first Belgian to win on the PGA Tour. Shout out to the Belgians. Spent about 5 weeks in Belgium after high school in the summertime while my girlfriend was in the Bahamas cheating on me. So it was good to see that, because I also think about growing the game, quote unquote, and some of the competition that's out there, and keeping these international stars interested in the PGA Tour. And I think this is going to be just a step in that direction. The haters are going to hate, and they're going to say that there's another ho hum dry kind of Sunday, but like you pointed out, the story isn't always at the top of the leaderboard. That's the beautiful thing about golf. The Monday qualifiers aren't going away altogether. This is going to be like the final one, I think, for the Waste Management forever.
Yeah, this one's going away. Yes,
kind of even what the cooler story is here, which is the final Monday qualifier for the Waste Management. Has this magical run and finishes top 10. It's almost like a Disney movie. You don't even have to win the tournament to win the moment here. And of course, I know who Will Chandler is. We got a Georgia Bulldog here. We got an Atlanta guy. And
I did see that. That's why I knew you were going to know.
Anybody? Well, also when you get in through the Q school route, I think people assume that everybody's Ludwig Oberg or Nick Dunlap or Tiger or or Jordan Spieth, these guys who have phenomenal college and amateur careers, and then they say, I'm going to elect to go pro, and then they just have the ability in those 6, 7, 8 months to get their status, or enough to at least go to the mini tours for a bit, whatever. The Q school is always that interesting scrapper. Usually you'll have somebody like maybe a Joel Damon, or not Joel Damon, who's like Harry Higgs. He's coming back from the Corn Ferry Tour, right?
Right.
But you might have a guy like that who's like trying to get back in there. But Will Chandler, just a grinder, getting it out there. Now all of a sudden he's in 72nd. He punches his ticket to Mexico for the Vidanta. And, when you're from Atlanta and your childhood dream has probably been to play that tour championship at Eastlake, to get into Augusta, and, reality hits. It's almost like, if you heard of the comedian Matt Rife?
Yeah.
Handsome young man.
Remember Matt Rife back for his days on Wild 'N Out too.
Thank you. He was because he blew up in the last couple of years, and he admits it.
Yeah.
You hear him talk about it. He was genuinely doing job interviews and looking at jobs where he was like, I was about to give up comedy because I was for about 10 years. He said he was making like 45, 50 grand, just grinding it out, trying to do stand up. And he finally was like, it's just not going to happen. And then one viral video, he said literally it was like overnight I woke up at 27 million views or something like that. My life just changed. It's all it takes. And I think that's the beauty of the PGA Tour versus what we saw over on Live. Now the Live recap, they played in Saudi Arabia. They teed it up. Not a lot of fanfare because Phil wasn't in it. But you did have Adrian Meronk. He's one of my favorites. I was sad to see him go from the DP World Tour over there but I think that he got screwed over in their Ryder Cup, and that's what really pissed him off. He won that Italian Open, and then he didn't get picked up for that Italy when he was on a run, but that's neither here nor there. But Adrian Meronk brings it home. Legion 13. They win another team title, and then I saw an article talking about how Liv is approaching $1 billion in prize money doled out so far in their short existence. And even though the USGA just came out and said, all right, we'll give one guy, a ticket, the top performer, whoever's in the top 3 not already qualified for the US Open, you're in now. We just saw that the Open Championship has followed suit as well. And, sure enough, the PGA has already handed out their exemption to, I think, Joaquin Neiman. They've already said, come on down one more time. They're probably just going to establish a similar rule. Great, grand, wonderful. I still don't think they're going to suck much more talent from the good top tier, because I don't see maybe those 6, 7, those 7, 8 figure checks coming in anymore to say, who's this Luke Clanton or Luke? Yeah. The guy from Florida State. He's towards the top.
That's a heartbreaker.
David Ford, I think, is actually the leader right now for the PGA Tour U point system, but Luke's up there as well. Those guys are going to grind it out because if they make it here, then they're pretty confident forever. I don't see that top tier talent going, hey, what do you want? Now they did get Tom McKibben, who is top tier from the European side of things.
Right.
He's a big presence in Ireland. He's going to big draw. And I think for him, and maybe that's where they will get more of their talent, is the homegrown people. Less of those DP World Tour guys are going to come over because McKibben had his ticket. He could have come over to the tour. He was top 10 in the DP World Tour, part of that alliance agreement. And he decided to say, I'm going to take my bag. I'm going to go play Live. Because in his mind, and I think you're seeing this also maybe with like basketball and some of the amateur sports here, all I need are eyeballs and dollars, because that's, not everybody has a dream of winning the Super Bowl. A lot of those guys just might want to have a career in football, whatever that might mean. So Liv teed it up as well. They're kicked off. Yay, who cares? I genuinely a little jaded on that. The only upside to all this, and this is kind of Jesus, who saw this coming, is now all of a sudden, Jay goes to the Oval Office, Donnie gets involved because he's been heavily a Liv backer because they were using his courses. And now all of a sudden there's movement. Folks, before we think that it was actually DJT who they were waiting on, let's make something clear. It was and it wasn't. They were just waiting on the election. That's all they were waiting on.
Correct.
Because they had a plan for whether it was going to be Vice President Harris or whether it was going to be President Trump. They had a plan in place to get the deal done with whoever was coming. So I just want to say, it is nice to see whatever this deal might be, and knowing that it was hinging that much on kind of a political moment says that it was much more about just the money than anything else. This is going to be an investment. Correct. Both operations are going to keep going their separate ways. Liv has their new CEO. He's got his marching orders, and I think the PIF has their seat at the table over here. And as soon as the check clears, we're just going to go back to business as usual.
I think we pretty much already are back to business as usual anyway. It doesn't. This season feels so much less bothered so far by Liv's existence, and I mean that is because we're now in the 4th year of Liv. Believe it or not, it feels like it's flown by, but we are in the 4th year of Liv, and this is another turning point for them because we are now going to see. I saw Dan Rappaport and Alan Chipmunk talking about this on Dan's new show, Dan Does Golf, about the contract situation for Liv, because I didn't even think about this, but in their 4th year, a lot of these guys signed 4-year deals. Some of them are 5, but Bryson, Brooks, they signed 4-year deals, obviously for their big money. What happens next? Phil signed a 4-year deal. What happens next? I'll be curious to see if if anybody chooses to leave, obviously. I think at this point, for someone like Bryson and Brooks, they see that if they do leave, their path back to full-blown tour is probably not something they want to do at this stage. I don't see them fully leaving Liv at this point until that path is a bit more straight and narrow for them to get back to the top, I should say. But Alan had brought up an interesting point about Phil. And because Phil's definitely not going to leave the Liv. He's way too invested,
literally and figuratively, yeah.
Right. But does he move into? Alan was saying, does he move into more of like a either playing or non-playing captain role, to where he's more of a personality for them, and he's part of the broadcast, and we kind of saw that at the beginning with Bubba. Bubba was doing the cart ride around with the headset and the microphone and whatnot. I could see Phil doing that, and honestly, I could see Phil being very entertaining with that. I don't mind that for him and for what Liv wants to do. It's still not going to get me to go watch it. But I'll just be curious to see the second, we're about to make the first evolution of Liv, and I'm just curious, not invested or care. I'm curious.
And somebody can go back and run my comments 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it got started, me saying they're not going to last. Right. And I would stand beside. They didn't last. They're not a professional golf tour that's competitive in the nature of the DP or the PGA Tour. They're a very, very, very fun exhibition golf league. And that's right. I stand by it. You can put people in teams and all that kind of stuff. Until there's a little bit more meaning behind it externally, that's what it is for now. Doesn't mean it might not grow. Who knows? But I think for now, it's fine. For Phil, you're right. He's not leaving. He's invested. He's got his ownership in the High Flyers. They just did their clothing line, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could see Phil selling out his stake in the High Flyers and them making him commissioner. You've got this guy over here who's the CEO, who is dealing with all the PIF investment bullshit and handling TV deals and handling, all of that side. And then you've got Phil, who is just, like you said, he's really there for morale, but then give him an official title. Let's make him in charge of competition rules, all
commissioner of morale.
Commissioner. Commissioner of Liv is not. That's where I could see that evolution coming. But I just don't, like you said, I don't see it cracking into the PGA Tour stronghold on competitive golf. Nope. Even the DP World Tour, to me, is still much more entertaining and engaging. I think again, we're talking about Live is a limited sample size of golfers, 60, whatever, 62 golfers. And doesn't mean that they're not good, great, but law of large numbers suggests you would have to you're not going to get the quality that you would get when you have 140 out of a pool of 1,000 out of a whoever, who are kind of clawing and grinding their way up. And you have the one-offs, these tournaments that do suck, but throughout the course of a season, you're just going to get more competitive golf on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And Rory, I think his comments after Pebble Beach, we mentioned this before, and they're ringing even more true now. Going into this week with the Genesis, feels like there's a little bit less to it because they're not at Riviera.
Right.
And I think that might be one way that if Liv really wants to turn the corner, get some more eye-popping destinations. No disrespect, Mr. President, but we've seen Trump Bedminster. We've seen Trump Doral. If go find one of these super exclusive, one-offs that are just gorgeous and they make for great television and they make for great theater, and start having them there. I know that's a pie in the sky and there's other logistics, but if you really want to get those eyeballs and the interest of some of these players, then you have to give us something that's more than just, we don't give a shit that they're getting richer. We've established this.
That's not what people want to watch.
Yeah, I don't care. Listen, Sam Burns, he's like the leading money winner on Live all time right now. Him or DJ, one of the two, not counting their signing bonuses. It's just like on course. Like they've made like close to like 50, 60 million.
You mean someone else? Sam Burns is still PGA.
Not Sam Burns. Who the fuck am I talking about?
I'm not sure.
Who's the dipshit over there? Dan Berger? No.
Dean Burmeister?
No.
You just said Dan Berger. Daniel Berger is still PGA Tour. He was just top 3 or top 5.
What am I thinking about? Who am I thinking about?
I'm not.
It's not Dan. It's not Dan.
Is it another Sam?
Oh my God! I'm gonna have to look into this
because I'm not really sure.
This is.
I'm not sure. Either way, I think as you look that up, either way, Live is going to continue to be what it is, and the path isn't really changing. Like I said, I could see someone like a Taylor Gooch or a Cameron Smith being young enough to where they might try to come back through the PGA ranks.
Taylor Gooch, that's who I was thinking of.
That's who you're thinking of. Okay, Taylor. Yeah. Like I could see him. Taylor Gooch was a young up and coming star for the PGA, and he went over there. But like I said, I could see him and Cameron Smith being the type of guy on Live to come back.
And I've never seen them in the same room together. Pull up Sam Burns and pull up Taylor Gooch side by side.
What do they look? You're gonna say they look alike?
Enough that I don't feel like I'm losing my mind.
Oh, it would be helpful if I spelled Burns right. Actually, you know what? I can see it. They really aren't too far apart. They look like they could be brothers or cousins or something like that.
Definitely like cousins. They look like guys I went to high school with in North Florida. All right, great. Now the DP World Tour. I didn't bring them up just because they're, tangentially related to what we were talking about. Hao Tong Li, Chinese golfer.
I don't know how. Oh, I couldn't help. That's bad.
No, you could have. You could have.
That's what what's his name? Snowman was referring to when he said those guys are wild.
Hao Tong Li won the Qatar Masters. That's
okay.
It.
Good
he
job.
won the Qatar Masters. But I always Jesus, you really ruined me so bad. I get him confused with what's his name? Ho Sung Choi, who's got like the funky follow through. Jesus, man.
Oh yeah, I know that guy. That because you say follow through, and I can picture it immediately. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, that was.
And then the most interesting man alive on the PGA Tour Champions. Everybody's in the Middle East right now, except for the PGA Tour. He won the Hassan Trophy 2. And if you think that that's a made-up tournament, it actually goes back to like the 70s, I think, the King of Morocco or some shit like that. It's pretty cool. I'd love to say that I've won the Hassan Trophy 2. But Miguel Angel Jimenez If you go back throughout
Love
history, he's all of a sudden at the center of some of the more interesting exchanges. There's the back and forth with him and Keegan a couple of years ago that's been
Right.
coming up. He was famously the one of the runners up to Tiger back when Tiger won the Pebble Beach. To that, people are like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, he was looking at
He
the
was
scoreboard.
He was a pretty
runner up there with
consistent
30 else."
figure for a while.
The ponytail's done it. My favorite Miguel Angel Jimenez story is from the Masters. Somebody came in, it was middle of the day, and there he was in the players lounge, or we're in the restaurant. He had a steak, glass of wine, cigar.
Definitely.
Somebody said, "How was your round?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm about to go tee off."
Yeah.
Like there he was, full meal. He's got to play practice round, but he's got to get that steak, the cigar. He's on the short list of guys that I would love to go just play around with.
Well, yeah. Have you ever seen him out on the course eating a sandwich or a protein bar? No, he's full. He goes out there full, ready to go.
Homeboy's got it, and he's got one of the best warm-ups in golf. No TGL this week.
No TGL this week.
So let's pause. We got a triple header next Monday, which I think is smart on them. We're going to be in a show hole here. I think it's smart for them to take a beat after the Super Bowl. Like, don't try to, just let it breathe.
Right.
Let everybody get their stuff out, and then we'll catch everybody's attention with this random. I mean, you pipe it up. What is it? President's Day? Martin Luther King.
President's Day.
Yeah, President's Day. So you got President's Day, and so you know what's more American than a marathon of pro sports? And especially for folks in the North, yeah. What the fuck are you gonna do? It's freezing. You're not gonna go out. If I'm one of these indoor ranges, oh, I'm pumping this up. We're having watch parties. Right. We're gonna start doing bets and pools and stuff. But do they have an issue with this technology? Is this going to turn people off if they don't get their simulators figured out?
I still think they're better than 99% of the simulators out there. That's the thing. Obviously, after the misread shot last time out, everyone went crazy. This is why simulator golf is fake or whatever. They really ate at it, and I get it because it was the first time we saw it happen full blown. Now, do I think there have been other slight misreads that have happened to where that's the reason why some of these guys have been so off on their number a couple times when they've shot it long or short? I think that's fair to say. I think it's only going to be a problem if people keep bitching about it. I think when you really think about it, the fact that they've only had one full blown misread through 4 weeks, especially considering the size of that room. Because let's remember, these simulators they rely on light and sensors, and when you think about that, the closer they are to the ball, obviously the more accurate, more likely they're going to be able to pick it up. Like, this is a massive room we're talking about. Their placement, I know they're right behind, but like the fact that they've only had one mistake.
Oh, it's a basketball arena. It's a huge indoor space.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. So look, but what are you expecting? You're not like it's simulator golf.
I like this gracious Andrew. You were vibing with Kendrick earlier. You're being all forgiving. I like this. You know what? I was going to comment on your hair at the beginning of the show just because I'm jealous because I don't have hair anymore.
I
but
forgot to get a hat and I was too lazy to go.
Yeah, and I think that we need this Andrew a little bit more. Maybe you leave the hat off from time to time so we get a little softer side of Andrew and not the live free or die.
I am getting a haircut Friday, so Tuesday maybe I'll keep it off.
Are you going to just go are you going to shave it up on the sides and let the broccoli go on top like the kids are
doing? That's
doing
pretty much how I think it's called an undercut. I think that's typically what I always do. Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, the fade on the side and then let it flow on top.
They're gonna get the simulator thing figured out. It is what it is. I think the most relatable thing in the world, one of the strengths of golf is that it's one of the more relatable sports in the world. And I loved hearing Riggs on from Barstool talking to Brandel Chambly on Golf Central, and it was kind of neat to see this YouTube golf meets PGA. And it was Brandel saying like, "Hey, everybody's loving it. Like, you guys are really energizing the game." And I like the respect that he was kind of showing. Like, it's just different, And and Riggs kind of being like, yeah, like you all do what you do. You're the professional buttoned up. Like he's like, we do what we do. And like, everybody's loving it. And he goes, but it's because golf is the most accessible sport. Like, you and your buddies don't, very rarely, and it usuly ends with an ACL. Do you see like grown men going out there, just throwing the pigskin around?
Right.
Most, I would say percentage wise, most basketball fans are not also going out there and playing.
Correct.
The correlation between golf fans and golfers, there's a lot of people who probably play golf who don't give a fuck about the sport.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But if you are a golf fan, you can absolutely go out there and get it. So because it's accessible like that, and because everybody's been in the sim and hit one and looked at your buddies and been like, what the fuck? And everybody goes, yeah, and that's what they did. Everybody kind of looked around just like you were with the
Hit
boys,
another
like,
one.
like Mulligan, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think if they, as long as they can try to minimize that, they got to tighten it up though. Everybody knows that Tiger Woods is not blowing a wedge 20 yards over from 85. Like that's not that's
right. Those are those mini misreads that I think have happened.
Yeah, the outliers. And I mean, I think even they got to figure out a way to maybe like you can like challenge your own read. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's some sort of like backup quad 4 they have right down there, like checking distance.
I'd be curious to see how they could do that. Yeah, something like that.
Full swing would never let it happen. But
well, yeah, true.
Next week's numbers will be telling, because I also think that they were getting a bump from the playoffs. They were getting a bump from everybody just being in let's watch sports every night, Monday through Friday. Because, we have to just bridge the gap to get to the next weekend football game. So it'll be interesting to see what they do now that they don't have football propping them up. I don't see pitchers and catchers in baseball really cutting into that. So they're going to have the stage themselves. And for ESPN, it's pretty smart because what are we, like 58 days from the Masters? So they're just going to ride this all the way to Augusta. And Augusta is going to be the big story, because if people forget the hurricanes that came through, leveled trees, devastation,
some damage.
Yeah, the whole bit. But if anybody can work a miracle, it's Augusta National.
100%.
So TGL will be back next week, and the frogs need to get their head out of their ass. I think hopefully I think we might see a different Rory when we come back from this little hiatus, because I think maybe when you're the owner, you got multiple, you're juggling multiple hats. We've got liftoff. We're already in orbit. So now, maybe you take that hat off and you go and show everybody what you can do.
Yeah, I agree. And someone I'm looking forward to seeing more about there is Colin Morikawa. I love that personality that we saw of him out there. So I loved it. I'm here for that. Did you see, real fast before we get off, did you see the comments he had about Lucas Glover over the weekend? Did you see, it's just kind of fun. Like, I don't think there's any real drama there. It was just kind of fun. But someone had asked Colin about how he felt about guys like Lucas Glover wanting to ban aim point reading greens. And Colin's response was, well, if we're going to go out there and ban aim point Lucas Glover, then I'm going to go out there and say we should also ban long putters. And it's just like a fun, silly, like, I don't think there's any real beef there, but like, sure. Like, if you're going to take this person's tool of how they want to putt away.
Yeah. Point taken.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fine with it. A little fun.
Colin Morikawa, he has sneakily been, I think, the star of this whole thing. I think Billy Horschel has been the thirsty. Everybody's like, oh, he was made for this. I'm like, you're right. He was made for that the way that like a spastic child was made for a jump house. It's like, you're right. You go get him, buddy.
Yeah.
So
you know who seems forced out there though? Ricky. I think Ricky seems forced. As far as like the enjoyment of it and the personality, I just don't see him the same way that I'm seeing everybody else take it on.
He's a dork. I love Ricky Fowler. Like, I feel like
I have nothing wrong with him.
I just think that's what people are understanding. Like, his persona is, he's a BMX kid who ultimately just was really good at golf and chose golf because of the relationship he had with his grandfather. I mean, it's a really cool story, Ricky Fowler, and how he kind of ended up in the golf space. And sure, he's got that. His wife is that famous hurdler, javelin thrower.
I don't know anything about it.
Look up Ricky's wife. She was insta famous before it was like a career, and it was all because there's this one very famous picture of her just kind of putting her hair up with her javelin like right next to her, and she's a beautiful woman. So you see all these things, and it's kind of like with Tiger Woods. Then you meet him, and you're like, kind of weird. Like you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I would love nothing more than to spend a day with Tiger and just ask him questions, pick his brain, play. But it wouldn't be. I would kind of not be on guard, but I would be like, I'm watching a specimen. Like, you're not like me, are you? Like, we're a little different.
I know.
As opposed to, I could probably go out there with Billy Horschel, and I'd probably be just as annoying as he is.
Yeah, no, but I still love the personality. So I'm looking forward to getting 3 straight back-to-backs. I think it's gonna be fun. And I do know that javelin picture you're talking about. I thought
Yeah,
it was
we
that
all- we
one.
all-
I know that one.
We all know the picture.
We all know that one. All right, but that is going to do it for us here this Tuesday night. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday night, same place, same time, 8 o'clock on that Sports Podcast Network. As always, I'm Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. Bud Copeland here with me as always. Quick, Jeffrey, thanks for stopping in. Hello to you as well. Catching us right at the end of the show here. Catch us next week to catch the full show, Jeffrey. So we thank you for stopping by. But on that note, enjoy the night. We love you all, and adios.